And now, wielding a red sword. Chapter 6. Mars. First, you must know how to travel, Gaia said. You have a fine horse named Wera, but he's mainly for formal occasions. Or you can discorporate, but that has risks. For now the key is the sword. There are several modes of its operation, but all are governed by your will. If you choose to appear at the most intense war currently being waged, you simply give it its head, and it will take you there instantly. The sword likes violence. If you want to go home, that is to your castle in Purgatory, you give it the mental command, home. Purgatory? Mim sang. A Western concept, a kind of crude, structured nirvana. It may be easiest to think of it as an island in the sky, a place in the clouds, invisible to mortal folk but real to immortals. The place where those souls who have not made the decision whether to go to heaven or to hell pause. A place of indecision, or of decision, however you see it. Reincarnation is more expedient, Mim sang. We Occidentals are not as sophisticated about the larger scale as are you Orientals, Gaia said, smiling. But he was sure that this benign green woman was as sophisticated as any living person. I think first I want to rescue Rapture, he sang. For that you must use the directed travel, Gaia said. Simply point the sword in the direction you wish to go and will it to proceed. A little experimentation will give you the feel of it. Mim looked at the sword he still held, whose glow had diminished to a dull red as if it were slightly red-hot. He was acquiring more respect for it. But first I must escape the palace, he sang. The sword will take you through the walls, Gaia said. That's what I'm afraid of. She smiled. An incarnation is only as solid as he chooses to be. You will pass through without disruption. Cautiously he pointed the sword at an interior wall so that he would not find himself abruptly in mid-air outside, 2 stories up. Forward, he thought, slowly. The sword moved, and he moved with it. There was no sensation. He remained standing, but traveling, as if on a moving carpet or one of those scientific airplanes. Surprised, he lifted the sword slightly so that it angled up and found himself sliding upward at that angle, his feet leaving the floor. Hastily, he angled it level again and sailed through the wall. There was a moment of darkness, then he emerged from the other side of the stone. Now he was floating slowly across the next chamber, 1/2 a meter above the floor. He realized that he didn't have to worry about being outside at a height. The sword made him independent of support. He could fly, literally, without effort or discomfort. Gaia appeared in the new chamber in the form of coalescing mist. "Shall we proceed to Maharashtra?" the mist inquired. Mim was getting to like the sword very well. "But suppose I drop it?" he asked, still not quite certain about venturing high and far. "Try it here," she suggested. He let go of the sword. It remained floating in the air, and so did he. "But I'm not touching it," he sang. "The red sword is yours until you renounce it," Gaia said. "This is not a matter of physical contact. You could give it to another person, even a mortal, and it would still be attuned to you. You can sheathe it and orient it mentally, and it will not change physically, but will act as you will. It is a symbol as much as an object, and its powers are great." Evidently so. Mim took hold of the sword and sheathed it in the great ornate scabbard that he abruptly discovered at his hip, and remained floating. "Then let's go," he sang. In his mind he aimed the sword up at a 30-degree angle and south. He willed a swift passage. He got it. He shot upward at the angle, passing right through the building and into the nocturnal sky. The process was exhilarating. Up, up he sailed, feeling no wind, no change of temperature. The magic of the sword kept him secure. "But you must guide it when the destination is not familiar to it," a cloud said. Mim experienced déjà vu. "Were you at the Honeymoon Castle?" he sang. "Not specifically," another cloud replied. "I am in all things, but I don't interfere where I don't need to." "A cloud talked to me there," he sang. "They do on occasion," the cloud he was now passing agreed. "You may wish to steer inland." He looked down and discovered that he was high over the surging Indian Ocean. He directed the sword southeast, and his direction of travel changed accordingly. He accelerated, and the sea and dark shore moved by at a phenomenal pace. But still Mim himself stood casually upright, feeling no wind resistance. Though it was dark, he was able to see around him. Either his night vision was sufficient, or the sword was lending him enhanced powers of observation. He flew in toward the giant city of Bombay, where he knew Rapture had been sent. Lights shone all across the city, and the palace was brightest of all. Mim had no trouble reaching it. He simply flew in through a stone wall, and landed lightly on an upper floor. But the palace was huge, and there were many chambers and suites. How could he locate Rapture without causing a stir while he searched? Gaia's mist appeared like vapor condensing. "Use the sword again," she advised. "I understand that it can tune in on the identity of any person and enable you to share that person's awareness. It is one way the subject is not aware of you, but it can be quite useful on occasion." "Tune in on Rapture?" he sang. "But her privacy, I don't like to—" "You have changed since the Honeymoon Castle. This, however, need not be that intimate. Merely avail yourself of her perceptions to identify her location, then go to it." "Oh." Mim touched the sword. "Rapture of Malachite, Princess of Maharashtra," he thought. Nothing happened. "Titles mean nothing to it," Gaia advised him gently. "It perceives only the essence." Mim tried again. This time he thought of the woman he loved. He found himself looking at an ornate feminine dagger. He blinked, and he was still standing in the chamber, his finger touching the red sword. It had been Rapture's dagger he had seen. She was contemplating suicide. He looked again, this time tuning in on the peripheral aspects of her vision. She was in her private bedroom, alone. But where was that? He was not familiar with the layout of this palace. That room could be anywhere. Then her gaze wandered vacantly to the mirror, and he saw her forlorn reflection. Her lustrous tresses had dimmed, and her green malachite eyes were rimmed in red. She was so lost without him. She had been dependent on her father, and now she was dependent on Mim. Stripped of that support, she was collapsing into herself. He had loved her because of that fundamental vulnerability. She truly did need him. Behind her reflected face, a portion of a window showed, and beyond it was a fragment of green. She had set a green handkerchief at the sill, perhaps to dry after being soaked with her tears. That was so like her. He grasped the sword. "Out," he directed. He sailed out through the wall and around the palace. There, in an upper window on the north side, was a speck of green. He homed in on it, then passed in through the window to land on the floor. "Rapture," he sang. She jumped, spun about, recognized him, and collapsed. He jumped forward and caught her as she fell. "Beloved," he said, not stuttering for the moment. He held her, kissed her, and held her some more, and in a moment she revived. "Beloved," she echoed. "I have come to claim you," he sang, "but there is much to explain." "Just hold me," she breathed. Without you, I saw the dagger," he sang. "No need for that now." Then, holding her, he sang his explanation, his assumption of the office of the incarnation of war by grasping the great red sword, the new powers and responsibilities that provided him, and his ability to take her with him if she chose to come. "Take me with you," she cried without reservation. "But it will mean a complete change in your life," he warned. "You would not be a princess any more." She just looked at him, and he knew that nothing else mattered to her except being with him. "Well, let's see how well we can travel together then," he sang. He touched the sword. "A consideration," a wisp of mist said, forming in the room. Rapture jumped again, but Mim reassured her. "That is the incarnation of nature," he sang. "She is helping me get started. She showed me how to reach you." "If you take her away without explanation," Gaia said, "her father will assume that she has come to some foul end, and he will blame your kingdom, Prince, with which he is at war. That would lead to much mischief that I think you would prefer to avoid." "I would prefer to stop this idiotic war entirely by marrying Rapture," Mim sang. "But my father—" "Perhaps we can achieve your desire with a little effort," Gaia said. "All that is needed is the apparent acquiescence of the principals. What would make your marriage to the Prince of Rajasthan acceptable to your father, Rapture?" "I would not marry—" Rapture began angrily, but Gia held up a finger, and the princess was silenced. Mim suspected that more magic was involved. "A reduced dowry," Rapture said after a pause. Gaia turned to Mim. "And if you acceded to marriage with the Princess of Rajasthan, proffering the acceptance of a reduced dowry if the same were accepted for your former betrothed?" Mim was beginning to comprehend. "I am sure the Raja of Rajasthan would be amenable to that. He expects to pay an exorbitant dowry, but certainly I'm not going to—" "Would one of your handmaidens like to take your place?" Gaia asked Rapture. Rapture smiled. "Any handmaiden would like to take the place of any princess, but summon one you feel is worthy, who would be able to act your part if she had the appearance and opportunity." "That would be the one who doubles for me on boring parades," Rapture said. "But up close she does not resemble me very well. Bring her here." Rapture reached out and drew on a tasseled cord. In moments a young woman appeared at the door. "Bit of Honey, there is a task we may require of you," she said. "Listen to this woman." Gaia, who was now completely solid, addressed the young woman. "The Princess Rapture of Malachite must go away, but she wishes to appear to remain. If you will consent, I shall fashion you to the likeness of the princess, and you shall take her place." Bit of Honey shrugged. "I have done so before." Gaia smiled. "For the rest of your life." The girl's eyes widened. "But she is to marry the Prince of—" Her gaze flicked to Mim. "Was to marry—" "She is now to marry the Prince of Rajasthan," Gaia said. "But she loves the Prince of Gujarat, so she is going away with him. She would like you to assume her identity and marry the Prince of Rajasthan. Are you willing to do that?" "But I am only a common girl," Bit of Honey protested. "You will be the princess, if you are willing to give up your present life in favor of that one, and keep the secret." "But the prince— I could never be more than a concubine to—" Gaia touched her, and the girl's protestations abated. "You can be what you choose to be. I will provide you with the voice and the appearance. You must provide the will and the action. But you must choose now." The girl looked wildly at Rapture. "Oh, mistress, I would never betray you, but this—" "Do it," Rapture said. "You know I have no life without Prince Pride of the Kingdom. You are welcome to the Prince of Rajasthan." "To be a princess!" the girl breathed, beginning to believe. Gaia touched her again, and her appearance dissolved and changed and became that of Rapture. Even her clothing conformed. "Speak," Gia said. "What shall I say?" the pseudo-Rapture asked. She sounded exactly like Rapture. "You know what to do," Gaia said. "If you slip or falter, it will be over." The woman looked in the mirror at herself, amazed. Then her shoulders straightened. "I will not falter," she said. "But what of my disappearance?" Mim sang. "We shall take care of you now," Gaia said. "Will yourself back to the place where the sword came to you. It is familiar with that sight. Make sure you have a good grip on Rapture." Mim touched the sword with his left hand, and put his right arm about Rapture's slender waist. "To the place of our meeting," he thought. And they were there. Gaia's cloud formed. However she traveled, it wasn't the same way Mars did. "Now we need a young man to assume your identity," she said. Mim considered. "I had a sparring partner of royal birth for my weapons training," he sang. "He knows the ways of princes, and he likes wealth and power. I believe he could and would play the part." They summoned the man. After a dialogue similar to the one that had occurred in Bombay, the man assumed the likeness of Mim and was afflicted with his stutter, but was happy to marry the Princess of Rajasthan and carry the privileges and responsibilities of the position. Now they were free to depart the mortal realm. "The staff of your castle will assist you hereafter," Gaia said. "I shall encounter you in the line of business. I wish you well." "I thank you for the invaluable help you have provided me," Mim sang. "I hope I shall not disappoint you in the office." "Only if you allow yourself to be deceived by Satan," she said, and dissolved into vapor. Mim put his arm around Rapture, touched the red sword, and willed them to his castle home in Purgatory. He found himself in the entrance foyer of a castle as seemingly solid as any he had encountered. Huge gray stones rose up to an enormous height. He tapped one and found it solid. "If this is a castle in the sky, it is nevertheless quite substantial," he sang. There was a stir within the castle. Several gaunt figures came to the foyer. Rapture shrank away from them. Mim recognized one in a black cloak. "Famine," he sang. Famine nodded. "And you are Mars," he replied. Mim turned to the others. "And you are?" "Conquest," a big hearty man in a white cloak said. He smiled, and his teeth showed like polished white ivory. "Slaughter," the one in the blood-red cloak said. There were ragged slashes across his face that dripped fresh blood. Rapture shuddered and averted her gaze. "Pestilence," said the one in the dirt-brown cloak. His face was a squirming mass of maggots. Rapture screamed and shrank away. "My companion is distraught," Mim sang. "Do not take offense." "Offense?" Pestilence asked, a maggot spraying out as he pronounced the S. "I am flattered." They passed on into the castle proper. The castle staff was lined up, ready for inspection by the new master. "Do you know how to serve royalty?" Mim sang. "We do," the head butler replied. "Then see to the needs of the Lady Rapture," Mim sang, "and provide me with a person who can tell me what I need to know." The butler snapped his fingers. Immediately 2 maids stepped up to Rapture. "We shall see you to your suite," one said. "There is a bath waiting and a change of dress." Rapture hesitated, glancing at Mim. She didn't want to be separated from him in this strange place. "Did you meet the lesser incarnations?" the other maid asked. "Aren't they simply awful? I had bad dreams for days after I saw Slaughter. And as for Pestilence—" Rapture turned her gaze to the maid, discovering companionship. She relaxed. These people might be all right after all. She went with them. "These are marvelously accommodating personnel," Mim remarked. "This is our station in the afterlife," the head butler said, "to know and serve your needs. The Lady Rapture will be made at ease." "Afterlife?" Mim sang. "We are not among the living," the butler said. "But you seem quite solid." "Here in Purgatory, sir, everything seems solid, but only you and the Lady Rapture have physical substance beyond these environs. The rest of us, and the castle too, are only solid in a qualified sense." "I have some difficulty accepting this." "We are as pictures on a sheet of paper. When you confine yourself to that frame of reference, the pictures are sufficient. But when you exert yourself in the 3-dimensional frame, we no longer have relevance. You have mortal substance that we lack." Purgatory is a picture on a sheet of paper? In a manner of speaking. A facet of existence limited to a plane. From the surface of the earth, mortals see right through that plane, but when you come to it, you join it and interact with us in what may seem to be a normal manner. I can't believe that you don't really exist. We exist, sir, but only in a limited sense. Heaven and hell are similarly limited. Only mortals have the full range of experience. Isn't this horribly restrictive? Don't you feel imprisoned? This is eternity. Though we lack the freedom to affect our destinies that mortals possess, we are freed from the concern about pain and termination that they suffer from. We comprehend the shape of our existence. Our reality is as if it were stretched out in an infinitely narrow but infinitely long path, unlike that of mortals. To be a butler for eternity? No reincarnation? Not for eternity. Only for a few centuries, until the inevitable shift of the ratio of good and evil in us permits departure to heaven and everlasting peace. A few centuries? It is worth it, sir. We have only to do our jobs, and these are not unpleasant jobs. It would be my pleasure to serve you, even if my destination were not dependent on it. Mim would not have been satisfied with such a situation, but of course he was immortal. Or was he? What is my status now? Will I age and die in this office? By no means, sir. You will remain fixed as you are now for your full term, which will terminate only when war on earth abates. You are an incarnation of immortality, a temporary immortal. Who else is in this situation? There are 5 or perhaps 7 major incarnations: death, time, fate, war, and nature, in addition to good and evil. There are a greater number of lesser incarnations, such as the associates of war whom you met in the foyer, but the only ones you need be concerned about are the major ones who will generally cooperate with you. Generally? God, the incarnation of good, does not involve himself with mortal matters in accordance to the covenant. Mortals must choose their own denouement. Therefore he will neither help nor hinder you, though he does watch you. Mim was glad that he had picked up a smattering of Western mythology. Otherwise this would have been very confusing. What of the incarnation of evil? He is Satan, and because he is evil, he freely violates the covenant. He will seek to do mischief, turning your efforts to his designs. He wishes to gain power by acquiring a greater number of souls than God possesses. This aligned with the warning Gaia had given him. Satan would cause trouble. But how can he do this if I am alert against it? Satan is devious, and the master of misdirection. It is customary for him to, if you will pardon the crudity of the expression, work over new incarnations. You will be a target, sir. It is true that Satan conspired to eliminate my predecessor? It is true, sir. What did the former Mars do to arouse Satan's wrath? He supervised a challenge that the present fate made to Satan, ensuring that it was fairly conducted. This enabled fate to balk Satan's design. But that's unreasonable, Mim sang. A fair contest. Satan is not a reasonable entity, sir. He is interested only in his own design. And Mars, surely he was not helpless in his own defense. He tolerated the ploy. Why would he do that, knowing that this would be to Satan's advantage and that he himself would perish? He did not perish. He went to heaven. That is a consummation devoutly to be desired. The cessation of war had been his most devout wish. But that's a conflict of interest. If he abolishes his job, not if one's wish is to go to heaven, sir. Mim considered that. So Mars wanted to go to heaven and could only get there by having his job end in a positive manner. So Satan facilitated that, and it behooved Mars to cooperate. Exactly, sir. But now Satan has a new and inexperienced Mars to, as you put it, work over. Exactly, sir. And I will not get to heaven unless I succeed in abolishing war. Admirably phrased, sir. There's only one catch, sir. I don't want to go to heaven." "Sir?" The butler was visibly startled. "I am a Hindu, not a good one, obviously, but my desire is not for heaven, but for nirvana." The butler made a moo. "Then it would seem that Satan does not have the inducement to proffer you that he proffered to your predecessor." "Correct." "This should be a most interesting encounter, sir." Mim smiled. "Let's hope so."